What up? 10 minutes on the timer. This is 10 minutes with Coffee Black. The homie Jay is back
What's good?
with five more questions. With five more questions. So, the National Coffee Association just dropped this crazy report on like market trends. We finna get real nerdy. So, we got a couple questions from the homies about it. So, Jay's gonna read those off.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, according to the National Coffee Association report that just dropped,
Yep.
African Americans seem to be the fastest growing ethnicity in coffee consumption.
Yep.
When you started the brand in 2020, they were reported the lowest.
Yep. Yep.
Like, how did you have that foresight? How did you see that growth coming?
No, I'm not gonna lie to you, bro. Like when we started, all the articles, this was back in 2020, 2019, all the articles were like African Americans are the lowest coffee consuming group in America.
Yeah.
And I don't know. The feeling was that I got was kind of like, so therefore there's no point in talking to them.
Right.
And a lot of people would basically be like, okay, cool. They just don't like it. They're culturally deficient. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
Which I think is a true about a lot of stuff with Black people. Like people see some type of like lack of presence or a low statistic, and they assume, you know, back when I was in college, there's this thing called the Moynihan Report that we had to read in sociology class, which is basically like this belief that like culture was the root behind a lot of the problems in the Black community. And I like, while I can see some of the perspective, that mindset to me, like the sociology mindset, I was sociology minor in college. Like when I look at problems, I don't assume that there's an inherent deficiency within the people group or the place where the issue is. Like, okay, what are some of the structural reasons why? So I was like, okay, so if we're the lowest coffee drinking group, why is that? Right? Not necessarily like, oh, well, there's nothing to do. There's likely a reason, because I had enough evidence, at least anecdotal evidence with myself and with my cousins. And then whenever I bring my specialty coffee over to like, you know what I'm saying, Thanksgiving or whatever, even what we've been doing with the anti-gentrification coffee club for like the last, even before it was really a coffee club, I would see the reaction when I would present coffee the way we present it. And I'm like, oh, so there's an issue with the congruency of the way it's being presented. It's not a culturally congruent, like people can connect the dots. But if you present coffee in a culturally congruent way that really tells a different story and starts from a different starting point, a lot of people see themselves in it. So my hypothesis was like, the reason why a lot of Black folks in America don't drink coffee, and at this point I think it's also true around the world, isn't because we don't like it or we wouldn't like it. It's because it's not marketed as something that's for us. It's not even marketed as something that's from us. Even though Black people were the first folks to discover it. So I was like, what if we integrate it and present it in this like multiversal way? I'm a big nerd, so I'm like, okay, so what if there was a multiverse where coffee had always been Black? What would that look like? What would it sound like? What would the clothes that they wear? Like what kind of drinks would they have? And like that's honestly how we got a lot of the products that we have that's like launched, went crazy in our community. And I think that even with the capital raise, like right now we're sitting at like $211,000, which like my homies who are like in business are like, this is crazy. It's so hard to raise capital right now. For people who are on their Series A, Series B, like people who've been raising capital, it's difficult to raise capital now. So for this to be our first community round and to have so much belief, it just shows like people have been talking to us, right? And there's just like people in the market who have yet to really be marketed to, and the way we're doing it, people are resonating with it. And now the research proves it. It does. Right? Like if the research is like, oh, now African Americans are the fastest growing coffee consuming group. And I think that's because there's been a shift in the culture. You know what I'm saying? There's been a shift. And I think you're an experience like 2020 was you drinking coffee?
No.
2024, you drinking coffee?
Yes.
Yeah. So
I'm living example.
No,
you know,
we literally in the Broom. You know, we're about to be in a new building.
Shout out.
New construction starts in July, final phase of construction. But yeah, I would actually ask that question back to you. Like, for you, what was the thing that got you into coffee? Think about 2020 you versus 2024 you. What was the difference?
The difference was this face.
Yeah.
Like the thing about it is, I'm a barista now. I make coffee.
Your barista certification.
Yeah. Come on. Congrats. Appreciate it.
Yeah.
So, and the craziest part is, before 2023, while yes, I've had coffee, I was no coffee drinker at all.
Why was it? What was your thoughts about coffee like back in 2020?
In 2020, my thoughts about coffee was Starbucks.
Yeah.
It wasn't like, and I feel like that's most people in my age group of my ethnicity. We just see coffee as Starbucks, and it's like the rich whoever girl is coming in the morning with a large cup from Starbucks. I'm like, that's cool, but I'm not a sweet drink type of guy. I'm like, I'll go for a can of soda or something before that. Yep. But now it's like, with coffee, what made it cool was coffee black for us. You know what I'm saying? Because like the moment I stepped in here, the first thing I had was that gold, homie. First coffee at there.
That's
so
that
it was
gold.
It's that gold, homie. So I had that gold first. So I was like, the way I got broken in was in such a uniquely packaged. You look around, you see the stuff that stuff I grew up with, like bro, we got ciphers kicking in the background, boss man rapping. It's like, bro, I grew up freestyling with my cousins, uncles, friends, whoever. I'm freestyling, right?
And this the thing to me is this way we're doing it is actually more original. It's more congruent with like how coffee was like in the motherland. We just talked about like the Bunakala ceremony. And we did a podcast about it, and we're going to do the mini doc about it too. But like, man, seeing that and thinking about so many of the baristas who went with us for the first half of the Black Barista Exchange program, which is another thing. I think programs like this Black Barista Exchange program that we're building with Vanderbilt, again, are introducing so many more people to coffee in a different way where you can see it at its pre-colonial roots. And ironically, that way of interacting with coffee is so similar to the way we just have been building it in a way that made more sense for us. You know what I'm saying? So it's kind of crazy. And I think, okay, we run out of time. We got 3 minutes left. We said 10 minutes with Coffee Black. If y'all got more questions, drop them in the comments.
Please do.
In the next video. But there was another interesting piece of research too. You want to get to that one? Because I think it connects to what we've been talking about.
Yeah. So it's 75% of the past week specialty coffee drinkers agree that coffee drinking cold brew is a cool or trendy thing to do.
Yeah.
Gold Brew has been selling 500 cans a week for the past 7 weeks. Shout out Gold Brew.
Crazy.
How did you see this coming? Because you're not even a cold brew fan.
Nah,
he hates it.
He
hates cold brew.
I actually hate cold brew. For me, I was like, so the reason why I hate cold brew is because it's like, for me, a lot of times antithetical to what I love about coffee. I like cold coffee. I just don't like the way cold brew is prepared, because it's like it sits in the water so long as a way to make up for the lack of heat present in the dissolving the solid into a liquid to create the solution. So they use time as an exchange for heat, which you would normally use, and you lose a lot of the aromatics. Coffee is an African fruit. You lose a lot of the like citrus, and then you extract a lot of like the cellulose wall, in my opinion, because it's there so long, which normally you wouldn't extract with heat. So it's like I dislike the flavor profile because it ends up tasting like paper bags, which, to be honest, is what I didn't like about coffee. When I thought I didn't like coffee, it was like, yo, this just tastes like burnt paper and dirt. You know what I'm saying? And now on the other side of like the specialty coffee thing, which that's a whole other thing about how like specialty coffee is driving, the research was showing like specialty coffee is driving the growth of the coffee industry in the US versus traditional Folgers type thing. But we don't got time to get into that. Back to Gold Brew. Okay. So with the Gold Brew, the thing for me was like, I wanted to create a coffee that would show what I love about coffee, right? But I didn't have 7 years to develop folks' palate. So to your point, your first time in, you like, I don't have time to walk you through cupping like we did with KD for 3 years during the pandemic, or like we did with O for 4 years at my house. So it was like, okay, cool. What's a drink that's basically going to turn the volume up on what I already love about coffee? And then we'll walk you backwards to like the pour overs and single origin and stuff like that. So that's Gold Brew. You know what I'm saying? It's like, and it's a flavor profile we already know. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, we've been drinking Arizonas.
We've been
drinking Arnold Palmers and VIPs and like going to Chick-fil-A and getting the half and half. So like this joint right here, instead of using tea, we use coffee as kind of like the contrast to the acidity and the sweetness. And then the other piece was to maintain the natural flavor. Instead of adding a bunch of cane sugar or whatever, we use natural sweeteners. So like honey, agave, monk fruit, it's like a softer sweetness. It also enhances the natural florality of the Ethiopian coffee. Okay, my homie's saying we run out of time. So any last points, thoughts on this, that what it brought up for you?
So last and final thoughts. What this shows me about cold brew is that the younger generation are looking for a more accessible way to get into coffee. And I feel like the most accessible way to get in coffee, at least in Memphis, is definitely Gold Brew.
Yeah, bro. It is there, and it's in the can. We just launched in our first grocery store, and even then, seeing like first time I went back to check on that jug, the shelves was clear. They was like, "That we got to pull more out the back." Like we had to restock real quick. And I think that in collaboration, like the potential we have to combine these two pieces of data, like the cultural potential by being culturally congruent and honoring your root, and then the product base, like the product innovation, product development opportunity there. Like we just did this song with some of the hottest artists coming out the city where we bring in Memphis culture with the cold coffee. It's crazy. Anyway, like, subscribe, leave a comment. More coffee coming to you soon. Keep that coffee black. Stay tuned for next week.